All right, we're back with your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly, and it's episode number 524. And yeah, we're into the summer. Things are heating up everywhere, temperature-wise. Heat waves all over the place, and yeah, Aubriana, you're looking very summery.
I think. Yes, I am feeling summery. I am, well, we have obviously Independence Day that we're about to celebrate here in the States. So 4th of July, which means a long weekend for a lot of us. So I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, 1 week until I go to the beach. So that's even more exciting for me. So yeah, I'm feeling summery.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, and we moved to stage two of our reopening. My hair has been cut, as you can see. Yes, finally. Only months of waiting. So that's good. And yeah, exciting times. My daughter was very happy because she graduated from high school, and she's like, and her graduation was on the same day that they reopened, and she's like, you need to line up like first thing in the morning, and try and get your hair cut for pictures. And I'm like, I followed my orders.
And she looks lovely. I can't believe she's graduated.
I know,
So
crazy.
excited.
So, anyhow, well, we've got a good show for you this week. Four stories as usual. Some interesting things. I'm going to touch on a little AR this week, an acquisition, or not acquisition, a fundraising, I should say, and some interesting sort of out of home stuff. So I'll let Brianna kick us off.
All right, so let's start off in New York, in Buffalo, New York, actually. So Olmstead Park, which is one of the parks, obviously in Buffalo, has a lot of history that they wanted to document, I think, and point park visitors too. So they are doing that through an app and via AR technology. So they have their Olmstead app 2.0 is what it's called. And they're rolling out these AR experiences throughout that. So basically, the app is providing users with, all kinds of information on park updates, amenity locations, wayfinding, events, closures, all of those things within the app. But in addition to that, now they're adding in more of this, obviously augmented reality where you can kind of step into the past while you're there in the present. So you can point the phone at the actual, signs that are there. You can get this different information. So an example of this was they had a historic Lakeview house, which has been demolished. And so through this interactive kind of 3D model, you can see the structure exactly where it stood while you're standing there, kind of through this signage that's there. And there's lots of different parkway locations that this can be used. They had this designed by a company called Newbird. It's available on both Android and Apple devices. And this is part of some of the initiatives that they have through the, New York State's Division of Tourism and I Love New York market, that they have, and the Regional Economic Development Council Initiative and M&T Bank. So, for me, I think this is good. Like it's good that it's interactive. It's kind of table stakes at this point for, just informing, the general public for what happened, like for history. So kind of two thoughts on this. One, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking technology wise. Yes, I think that it's going to be enjoyable for, park tourists to come and kind of see things come alive as they stood before, take a step back in history. I like that aspect of it. I think it's fun. And you know what? I just was kind of thinking of this year has been a very, the past year, more than a year, has been very interesting in terms of state parks, historic monuments, and things of that nature here in the US. And for me, this is a way that I think information can be found about maybe things that once stood there that no longer stand there because they shouldn't. Or, what has happened or the history of things that were there or are there. I think that this is a way that maybe would allow people to understand the history of the country or that historic site while also honoring people that it affects, right? So I think that there's some interesting things in terms of application here and ways that this could be used for good. But yeah, I mean, from a technology standpoint, nothing super groundbreaking or exciting, but I do think that it is a good application of AR. And I like the idea of exploring history while you are standing on the very ground where it occurred. So what do you think?
Yeah, completely agree with everything you've just said. I think, yeah, from a technology perspective, there's nothing new here, but I love, the use of AR to bring history to life. And we've seen a number of these sort of use cases over the years. I know there's the Gettysburg experience, which uses AR, to kind of bring some of those battlefields to life and things like that. So it's a cool, interesting visual way to kind of be standing on a spot and then be able to kind of be transported back in time and see what was that like at some point in the past. So I think that's amazing. It's fascinating. It's a great sort of educational teaching thing. I think about young people, like kids, and how they learn today. Most kids are very visual. They watch a lot of videos and things like that. They don't want to read a book about the history of that space. They want to like just see it. And if you can bring it to life, in AR, I think that's fun, and can make it more engaging. So I like that. I think your point about things that we've experienced this past year and things that aren't maybe aren't there anymore, and being able to sort of still have a way to sort of see them or talk about them or create discussion about them, I think is a good one. We just had a major incident like you guys have had over the last little while right here in Toronto. So there's been a lot of discussion the last number of weeks here in Canada about what we call residential schools, which were schools that were operated by the Catholic Church, and kind of the native indigenous population kids were rounded up. This is going back like into late 1800s, early 1900s here, and sort of taken away from their homes and supposedly educated in a better way in the Catholic Church. And they've been finding all these sort of mass grave sites using ground penetrating radar now, and so on. So this has been a thing that is really important to understand our heritage as a country, and what actually happened. And so a lot of the sort of statues of people who were the proponents of this kind of schooling system now are being pulled down, like a lot of the statues that you guys have had being pulled down. And then sort of the whole sort of there's always been this sort of clash between sort of societal advancement and our native indigenous populations, and that issue is front and center right now here in Canada. So I think having technology be a way to sort of bridge past, present, and kind of create that discussion, I think is an interesting one. So I love this kind of stuff, and I think it's going to be great for going back to our story here of Buffalo and Olmstead Park. But I think broader use of this technology it's so easy, it's so available right now, and I think a lot of opportunity. So check it out if you're in Buffalo and going to Olmstead Park. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
I got
I
a
have
little
no
worked up.
idea about, I think I live in a bubble about that story and what's happening right now. So I definitely need to be more educated about that. But yes, I think that going back, this it is one way of many ways that I don't know, be aware of understanding the past so that we can influence the present and not have the same mistakes occur in the future, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right. On to our second story, a bit later now. We'll come back to into New York City now. So there's a company called FreshDirect. You're moving there. Maybe you'll check out FreshDirect when you're there. Who knows? But this is a grocery delivery company, and so they've teamed up with Quan Media, that's spelled Quan for our listeners out there, and AdQuick, on around a out-of-home measurement and attribution campaign. So basically, like a lot of brands, they had to adjust over, their ad spend over the pandemic. They used to do a lot of out of home advertising in New York, transit advertising. So, in the subway system, in the buses and the public transit system. Obviously, pandemic meant people weren't going to work necessarily. They were working from home, and transit, sort of usage was way down. So they had to find different ways to do that. And, while TV, saw a bit of a rise, that's not going to reach everybody. And so they were sort of playing around with different ways to do that and different out of home usages and kind of trying billboards in different areas that are sort of not just transit based. And so, anyways, they teamed up with Quan Media and AdQuick here to put this sort of campaign together and kind of playing around with different out of home in Queens and the West Side and the Midtown Tunnel and different areas. And they were able to really find what worked and what didn't work. And the way they were doing that is using mobile devices to measure engagement around these advertising these ads. And again, this isn't new technology. We've talked, I think 1,000 times on our show here about the use of mobile device tracking to measure out-of-home performance. Hundreds of companies are out there doing this now. But I think it does speak to the effectiveness of being able to understand where to focus your ad spend and how to optimize that. And so that's basically what they're doing. And then the other part of it is they have the ability through the Quan side of this to activate mobile messaging to devices that are nearby. So you can kind of actually tie, a sort of a view or a walk by or drive by to some sort of way to actually drive one-to-one engagement. And that's key, right, when you're talking about this type of advertising, because it tends to be, you think about a home as a mass media, but bringing it to something that can be truly hyperlocal and one-to-one, I think is always much more powerful. So yeah, I like it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in concept, I like this. I think it's super important that we are able to actually measure the efficacy of various types of advertising. And I think that, with something that has really large scale, for example, let's say, TV advertising or something online advertising, I think that measurement like this makes sense. I think it's really difficult to do at scale for something so hyper local. So when you think about digital out of home and the amount of location data that's actually available to be able to tie to viewership of digital out of home media or out of home media, even not non-digital, right? Being able to just tie location data and making the assumption that the ad was actually viewed. I think that you're really working with a pretty small set of data here. But there are a lot of companies, like you said, there's a lot of different ways to measure things, whether that's footfall traffic, whether that's location data, whether that's credit card purchase data, different aggregated segments that you can kind of say that this is the efficacy. And I think that everybody's just trying to figure out what's the best way to measure that with the resources that we have. So I like that they're testing things out. Do I think that they're going to see, grand scale in terms of the amount of data that they can track across out-of-home ad performance? Likely not, but if it can be enough to inform and, say that based on this percentage of location data and what we know based on the, traffic that passes by this area, you can inform that model a little bit. So it's a little bit of a reach. So I know I'm taking like a completely different perspective here, but at the end of the day, I do like always testing out new models and hypotheses for how you can track the efficacy of the spend. So.
All righty then.
All right, so let's go, across the water a little bit over to Ireland. And I think that one thing that's probably been pretty true this past, 18 months across the globe in general is the real estate market has been pretty crazy, right? People are saying, I'm stuck where I am and I don't want to be here. I need more space or I need a different climate or whatever it may be. So I think there's been really some massive changes with real estate this year. And we are now talking about out of home again, but specialist Kinetic, which is out of Ireland again, in partnership with the Irish Times, which is owns MyHome.ie. So it's like a real estate website. So you can, look for rentals and, what's available for sale right now all across Waterford. So basically, this is a location triggered campaign. And this is based on Kinetic's precision mapping platform. And this can alert consumers what is their nearest My Home property that's, available based on where they are currently, right? Mm-hmm. So the creative for each site can be contextually tailored, based on the closest property that's on sale. And then the digital out-of-home network allows for My Home to communicate that data with consumers in real time. So once a property has been sold, they can update that on the creative. So the signage would, just reflect that information, and that would be updated with a new property as well. So I think this is really actually a great application of this, because regardless of traffic, the data is something that's somewhat static, right? So knowing what's on the real estate market is what it is. There's not really a lot of fluctuations in terms of capturing that. So when a home's listed on a site and taken down because it's sold, it's pretty reflective there. And then because the digital out of home signage is not moving, right, and you know where that location is, and it's tied to a specific place inside of maybe a transportation hub or a bus stop or a shopping center or something like that. I think that it really works well in terms of just having an idea of what's nearest to that specific location. So I think this is a great application in terms of, one, what's the opportunity for the specific market, and two, the data aspect of it. So I like this story, and I think that it's a good application.
I do too, and I think it's real estate advertising in an out of home framework like this, I think is something we don't see a ton of. And what I like about it is that they're kind of playing this campaign across like all their different sort of form factors of, so what they call Digitower, DigiHub, D-Pods, and Super D. So they've got like this happening on big screens, on smaller screens, on kiosk type things, all sorts of different environments that you may come in contact with within the sort of the Waterford area. So I like that it's not just sort of this one screen that maybe some people happen to walk by, right? I like that it's kind of happening across an entire area, really on almost every screen that is controlled across different form factors. So to me that's really interesting, and obviously the sort of real-time ability with the precision mapping piece to update that, and if a property is sold, and just popping up the other ones that are close by, and I think that's really interesting, and I think that I don't know about you, but like anytime I'm like wandering around even when I'm downtown Toronto, or I'm on vacation somewhere and I'm like in the core and I'm wandering around the main street or whatever, there's always a real estate office. They always have like ads in the window of like local properties and things like that. But like to actually be able to like digitally have that update and be able to see that sort of in real time, because I always look, like I'm always like, oh, that's interesting, like I wonder how much things go for around here, whatever, right? So I don't know about you, but I do that all the time. So it's
all the time.
So
I don't know why, but it's so interesting, right? Like you just want to be able to know, like, oh, well, what's here? How is this real estate market? This is pretty. I wonder what this is. And something else that I would add, though, is I think that what could be done, I'm not saying it is being done, but an additional layer that you could apply here for the measurability aspect of it would be that there is, dynamic creative that can happen, for example, where each potentially could have like their own specific phone number to call or listing number to look up, so that you could attribute it to which signage drove, which click or call. So I think that capability is great in terms of like, this is a pretty trackable thing. If someone were to use like specific numbers that were there and incorporate it. So I like that there could be like one step further you could go.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would say like depending on these form factors of the screens, like if they're sort of within sort of not like high up, but you could actually touch them or get close to them. There's a lot of great technology now where you can embed in screens the ability for NFC support. So you could actually, the user, the customer or buyer potentially could simply tap the screen with their phone and then have like, the whole ad for that particular home kind of pushed down to their phone, and then they could take it with them and go, check it out, right? Go visit that property or whatever. So there's that sort of
QR
interaction,
code
huh?
or QR codes. Yeah,
QR
there's a
code,
lot of options.
whatever, right? So yeah, there's a number of ways to do that. So I like it. Good opportunity. All right, final story is about a little bit of money being raised. A company called OneNav has raised $21 million in a Series B funding. It's led by GV, Northwest Venture Partners, and GSR Ventures. So that brings their total fundraising to 33 million. This is a company that plays in the satellite space, the GNSS technology space, and so they've signed a strategic partnership as well with a company called InQtel to provide U.S. intelligence and defense agencies with a first of its kind GNSS technology solution. So basically what OneNav is all about, what they specialize in, is something called L5 signaling. So this is a type of mobile receiver that can basically receive these types of signals. And why that's important is, in the world that we're kind of in now, and kind of the advanced location data analytics world that we're in, there's a lot of different ways where having accurate GNSS satellite data and having that being communicated, timely, accurately, with as much compression of the data as possible and things like that. This plays into things like ride-sharing applications and positioning, making sure the accuracy of where you're going is there, and the mapping data is there. Obviously for navigation, things like Google Maps and all of that play into this. E911 emergency response services, getting the emergency responders to the most accurate position possible, is incredibly important, because at the end of the day, it's about saving lives. If I'm off by, I don't know, 10 meters, whatever, and it's indoors, it's in a building or whatever, that could cost seconds, that could cost somebody's life, right? So the more accurate you can be in this kind of stuff, the better. And so there's a lot of applications to this. There's a lot of advancements happening right now in satellite positioning technology and the accuracy in particular around that. I know it's not just with what's happening with our North American-based satellite network here, but the GLONASS network, the Baidu networks, the other networks that are going on internationally, are also making major upgrades to their accuracy. So I think we're getting to a point now where satellite positioning and location accuracy, sort of as a byproduct of that, is almost coming on par with where we were, I would say, with the early beacon days and mobile location type of things that were going on. So we're kind of now down inside of that sort of 1 meter accuracy level now with both satellites and sort of some of the more micro location stuff, which is getting even better as well. That's not stopping either. That's down to centimeter, millimeter level accuracy in some cases. So.
Yeah, it sounds like this is more of like an update to the chipset that would be like integrated into actual devices, which is really great. I know that everybody has been, in a large city, probably where they're trying to order an Uber or Lyft, and the signal's putting you like, the next block over, or, a couple blocks over, or on one side of the building when you're on the other side of the building. And so to me, this sounds like this is what's actually helping solve that problem, in addition to the network changes that are happening, kind of from like, you have the top down approach and the ground up approach. And when they meet, then that's kind of when we're going to see a lot of advancements. And so, like you said, we're definitely working towards that. And so it's exciting to hear that items like this are getting more funding as well.
Indeed. All right. Well, that's it. That's our show for this week. Four good stories there. And we just thank you for listening and watching. This has been episode number 524 of Location Weekly. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back, of course, with another show in another week. Have a great week, great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe and healthy. Get your vaccine if you haven't done so yet. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.